Okay, we just are doing the final touches on some of this equipment, the control levers and things that go into the driver's cabin area. And everything on the instructions is told to be painted black. I have managed to get a good reference picture, so I now know what's what, and pretty much everything is black. But I want to just get some contrasts between the shades of black on some of the items. So a particular area I want to do is this rubber cover. So rather than it being the sort of the metal semi-gloss black, I want it to be more of a tyre black, a rubber black. So I'm actually using Revell's anthracite colour for that, which is quite a nice rubbery colour, I find. There you can see already how that looks a little bit different. It's just nice dark grey colour. I do actually really like this colour that Revell do. Don't have many Revell paints, and what I do have all came in starter kits and the like. Some of which were my daughter's, and she didn't want the paints. There we go. That just looks a little bit different, doesn't it? And that's what we're looking for. Right. Next job is to attach this piece into its position here. Now, you're supposed to glue it onto this plate before you attach it on, but I really wanted to get this on and straighten up the underside of this, which we've done. There was a lot of clamping involved, and I just felt it was too delicate to have this part in place beforehand. So before we do that, we just need to clean up a couple of the mating points. I've just done these ones on each side here, and then we've also got one at the top here. Okay, and we can now put a little bit of glue on each one of these. I'm using the precision plastic glue from Deluxe for this job. It's all but the same as Revell Contactor, really. Only this one doesn't seem to ever clog, which is a nice feature. There we go, and hopefully we've got enough on the contact points there. I'm sure we have. The reason why I'm using this glue is it's just that slower. It gives me a little bit of time to mess around and line things up and that sort of stuff. So I'm just going to move the steering column up, because we've got to get it over this lump here. There we go, nice. So we've got another coat of the pale grey to do, just to touch up in there, and then we can add some of these fittings, and we can do a little bit of weathering around there before we put the dashboard in. Now, having looked at some reference pictures, I'm going to show you a picture now. This is the one that I'm using as my reference for the dashboard. So you can see it's a nice brown wooden dashboard. So I'm going to just do that and separately, and we'll glue it in separately. You'll also notice I've already removed the internal mask from where we airbrush this. I'm going to be brush painting this in. It doesn't matter if it's a little bit scrappy. In fact, that'll probably add to the effect, because we're going to do a little bit of weathering around here, because it'll get scuffed and collected a little bit of grime and that sort of stuff. Even though it's fire engine and I'd expect it to be fairly well maintained, you're still going to get some form of wear and tear on it. So that's what we'll try and concentrate on. But yeah, that's looking good now, I think. Right, I'm now going to turn my attention while the glue is drying on that engine bulkhead to the driver's seat. Now, we sprayed this, albeit without a primer, just to put a first coat down of the grey, and it didn't like it at all. I'm not sure why, because the parts had been washed. So we need to take this back. So I'm going to use an 800 grit sanding pad and just take that back because it needs to be done again. Smooth it off. Nearly. You can tell in the light when it's fully smooth. You can see we need to take a little bit more off yet. Okay, and the same all the way around. I had intended it to be a first coat, but it did not turn out too well, so we'll just take that back. Okay, got a little bit of filling to do along the top edge, so we'll do that now. So I'm just using some of this Vallejo plastic putty. Seems to be a product that people either love or hate. I love it because it is quick, it's easy to use, and as long as you're not needing to fill it and then shape it, it does exactly what you want. It's a hairline crack filler and it works really well for doing that. As you can see, job done. I think that's right. The instructions are not super clear on that part, but I think that is right. So that's the first item in. Then we've got the gear shift to go in, and then we can do some touch up once we've got the handbrake on. There we go. So let that dry for a minute and then we can go in and touch up the black. Brown blue wash for Panzer Grey I think is going to be a good wash for this grille. I don't want it black, I don't want it too dark, but at the same time I do want it to be showing this up, so I think this'll work quite nicely. So it has a sort of a green tint, but it works fairly well on anything blue. Now this is quite a pale blue, so if we don't like it, we just go over it with something else. But the plan is that this will be okay, I think. I'm also going to use it to highlight the edges and add some shadow around these bulkheads here. Yeah, that looks a little bit more alive already, doesn't it? Okay, that's looking pretty cool. We'll let all that dry off, and I think we've then got a little bit of scuffing and stuff to do. What we can't do is have the floor all worn and then the seat looking like it's brand new. So we need to do something with that as well. Okay, time to finish the wood effect on this dashboard. I'm using a mix, roughly 50-50, of burnt sienna and Indian red, and then it's been thinned quite heavily, maybe 70% thinners. And what we're going to do is we're going to apply that as sort of a filter, in a way, over this wood effect, and hopefully that's just going to change my wood colouring to something a little bit closer to what I saw in my reference pictures. And by putting it on in thin layers like this, we can ensure that we're not losing the wood grain that we've spent time putting in underneath. So it's just a matter of building up the layers and getting the shade to where we want it. So as the thinner flashes off, we can move this around a little bit and get it to do what we'd like it to do. Looks a little bit more dramatic on camera than it does in real life, I've got to say. Hopefully we can get a photograph to show you. Okay, now we've got the grill highlighted and that's all dried off now. It's time to do a little bit more weathering, and we're going to do that using weathering pencils. So when I'm weathering something like this internal, here's going to show you an example of one I've already done, which is this one here. What I tend to do is I work backwards. So by that I mean we start with things that couldn't be washed off. So chips, and scrapes, and then we go to things that could be washed off but are stubborn. So in the case of this, we've got a little bit of chipping on the edges, and then these black dashes are to represent the rubber boots maybe kicking against this when they sit down and leaving a mark. So that's the next level, and then we go to sort of general grime that could be washed off, and do it in those sort of layers. So that gives you then a plan. So I'm going to start with chipping on the grill, and to do that I'm going to use chipping colour when I can find it. There we go, chipping colour, which is a sort of greeny grey colour, and I like to use the pencil dry for chipping, Of course we can use it wet. Where we're going to see it chip is around the edges there and on the fastener heads. Okay, and then we're going to make some more deliberate little chips where maybe the paint has come away. There we go. And that's probably sufficient, I would think. Then the next stage is to do a little bit of chipping on the corners. Now, I'm assuming that this box is wood, but I'm still going to use this just to do a bit of dark highlighting. Okay, so that's that colour gone. Next thing then is actual chipping of the paintwork here. So I've got two colours we can do for chipping. I've got light wood and I've got dark chipping for wood. So those two colours there. And what we can do is just think about where it's going to chip, which is mainly near the bottom where you've got contact with shoes and the like, but there might be the occasional, you know, a bag was dropped against it or whatever. And we mustn't forget our sides. And then we'll do some dark, and I'll do fewer of the dark because they are more noticeable. And we'll use the dark to emphasize the chipping on the corners. Okay, so the next colour that we're going to go with on here is a sepia, which is quite a nice mucky brown colour. And what we're going to do is I'm just going to gently put little bits underneath the top of the seat where the wood is. Okay, then we're going to do something similar around the bottom, but we're going to use some other colours as well. So I want to use the sepia to highlight some of this edging here. So I'm dipping the pencil in some water, and you can see that sort of dissolves it, and then we can just take some of that off with our moist brush, and that allows me to paint a little bit in. And then if we moisten our brush again, we can then just blend it in. Okay, that is looking pretty okay now, that pretty nearly there. So along the bottom where we've put our little chips in, we now need to go in and put some scuffs in. So I am using black for the scuffs. So this is sort of where the rubber boots have been, and again we're doing that dry, so a few dots. Try and keep it random. Now it looks a little harsh when you first put it on. Don't worry about it, because we will blend this in a minute. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is just put a little bit of muck along the bottom, and I'm using smoke and dark earth, or earth brown actually it's called, which are these two colours here. And we're going to start with the smoke. So again, I've dampened the end, and we're just going to put a little bit in. And then the same again with the earth, which has also been dampened. And what we're going to do is we're just going to dot that. And the mix of these two colours gives you a nice sort of dark, dirty look, which I think looks quite good. Okay, so now they're on, we're going to get our paintbrush again, if I can find it. There it is. It rolled underneath my iPad, so I couldn't see it. So there we go, got it. So again, just moistening the brush, and we can use that to just mix the colours. Make sure we don't get any tidal marks. There we go. And we'll give that a moment to dry a little bit. And then once it's sort of nearly dried, you can see there it's nearly dried. Going in with a bit of packing sponge and just dabbing it. And if, like I have there, you've got a little bit of tidal mark, just go in with your damp brush and rub over the tidal mark. That reactivates the paint, and then you can go back in, dab it with your sponge and blend it in. And you can keep doing that until you've got the effect that you want, effectively. So on these ends where there's perhaps too much paint, we can dampen our brush and take it back. There we go, just makes it look a little bit grubby. And remember that you're getting some of this onto your sponge, so you can work the sponge up just to feather everything in. So there we have it. That's pretty much how I want it. We've got a combination of dirt and grime, and we've got a bit of the solid colour in the middle, which just helps break things up. That, for me, is sort of where I wanted it. It's fairly heavily weathered, I guess, but that's sort of the look we're going for. But with this being inside and only seen through windows, sometimes you need it to be a little bit overt so that it's visible at all. So yeah, I'm just going to finish blending in some of this, and then that's done, and I'm going to go and do the other parts of the interior, then we can build that up. Time for the dashboard dials. We have 5 spaces for dials, and we have 4 dials. So I've decided I didn't like the idea of one being blank, so I'm going to take one out of this aircraft dial set, and we'll have a full complement of dials, one way or another. So yeah, the instructions say decal 1. Well, actually they're individual decals, which is nice, but if you look very, very closely, there is about 0.5 millimetre of decal backing film around that. So I'm going to punch these out, and hopefully they'll just fit in lovely then. So with that in mind, let's crack on. I'm using the Tamiya punch. Now, if you're not familiar with one of these, there is a Focus on Tools video that I've done with this tool, so you get an understanding of how it works. But basically, it's a punch, and that's how it works. So this one, I think, is about right for the smallest dial. So we're carefully putting it over it. Before we punch anything, we're just checking round it, make sure that it's all inside the punch, and then we're simply going to press down and twist, and that should cut out our decal. And yeah, that's perfectly the right size. It's not quite gone all the way through because I'm on the cutting mat. Let me get a hard surface. There we go. That should be. Yeah, that's out now. He says not quite gone through the paper all the way. There we go. So there we have one punched out dial. So rather than dropping it in the water because it's so tiny, we're just going to get it wet, and then we'll put it on the side here and let that paper slowly soften. I think I need to go up a size to the 2.0 for the next two. See if we can do a better job of getting this one out. Nope. That has cut all the way through though, I think. There we go. And that is slightly bigger, but shouldn't give us a problem. Okay. Oops. And then the last one. Okay, and we'll need to go up again to the 3.0. Again, punch is slightly bigger than we need, but you're never going to get it an exact size, are you? Right, that is the official decals done for the dash. And we're just going to take one out, and it needs to be a 2.0 size. Okay, there we go. So hopefully they should just plop in without any issues with extra decal film, because they can really ruin that dashboard effect when you put them on and you've got decal film on, making it all lumpy. Right, decals are dry, they've gone down really well. Last thing to do is put a spot of glue and glaze on top of them to make them look like they're behind glass. So it's just a tiny amount. I'm actually using my little glue applicator here to put it on, and just putting a dot in the center and then gently spreading it out until you can sort of see when it's gone up to the bezel edge. Make sure it's nice and even. Let's do this big one. There we go. So when that dries, that should be nice and clear and shiny. We are ready now to do final assembly on the interior of this, and then it just needs a little bit of final weathering and we're done. Right then, time to build up the interior of our fire engine here. So we should be in a position where we can put all of these components on now. We've got a little bit of final weathering to do, literally 1 or 2 touches that we can do once this is built up, because obviously the floor pan, other than the scuffing, has not had any weathering yet, so we need to do a little bit of that. The first thing I want to do is plop this dashboard in, and that just drops into place. It doesn't have location pins or anything like that. It just pushes down. Until it won't go any further down. There we go. So there's a slight gap above this box here, and it's just touching along these sides. So you can push that into place, and when you're happy that you've got it all aligned, we can put a spot of glue on it. So I'm just going to glue it in at the sides here. There we go. And that's all the glue we need to add. So there's nothing getting anywhere near that window, so we won't have any issues with fogging or anything. So that's our dashboard in, and it's looking suitably 1940s, I think. Okay, next thing is to add these. Now these get painted black rather than the red of the fire engine. You can see there they're black, like a gloss black, but we can, you know, the whole of this thing's going to be glossy, so it can all get glossed at the same time. Having had a look at how these builds up, we can't build up the interior without them being added. I did consider painting them first, but actually we're going to be able to paint them after, so I can crack on with getting this built up. So there's a little cutout there which sits over a tab, and they are slightly off centre, so you have to get the right one, otherwise they don't fit. And the fit is quite tight. You'll see it holds into place nicely just on the back of being pushed in. So let's get this other one in as well. Get them in nice and tight. There we go. And then again we can glue that in with some liquid. Now that they are naturally wanting to drop a little bit, so I'm going to just hold it up into place. And I'll just push it in a little bit, make sure it's all nice and tight. There we go, and we'll just hold that while it dries for a sec. So you can see there's actually very little of this mudguard that gets seen. When you look at it against the edge of the floor pan there, and when you consider that you've got the side plate going on top, it hardly protrudes. It protrudes a tiny, tiny amount. Right, let's get this other one glued in and then we can clamp it. So just going to get a clamp. Gently just clamping that. and that's just going to help straighten the top edge there and hold that together while it dries. We've got a nice tight straight mud guards then, so we know that we're not going to have any fit issues later on. When we come to put these in, we want that fit to be really good. Okay, while that is drying, we can look to put the front seat in. So there's our front seat, that's all been weathered. Just put a little bit of smoke on the seat from a weathering pencil, manipulated it with a fine paintbrush, just as you've seen me do with the muck around the edges of things. And then a little bit of grease off your finger. I discovered that by accident as a kid. Built a famo, handled the chair, and it got all greasy, and I thought, oh, that was cool. So I've done that for years. Okay. So that is going to go in there. The fit is not massively positive because the tabs are quite small, but yeah, goes in like so. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a small amount of glue in the recess using this micro brush. I have had a couple of issues with the bristles coming out, so I'm just, you see, there you go, there's another one. There we go. What we don't want is bristles covered in glue dropping on things. By putting a bit of glue into this recess, it's just softening that plastic a little bit, and any paint there will start to dissolve and what have you, so it's just going to aid the fit. Right, I'm going to go around the whole bottom edge here with the glue. Now, you've probably seen me do this a few times now, but the first time you go around with the glue, it's the same with Tamiya or any liquid poly, it starts to immediately soak into the plastic and make the plastic tacky. And then if you go around with a second swipe, that second swipe will sit on top of the first tacky surface that you've created, and it will flash off and dissolve a lot slower than the first one, so you've got some time to place your part. Just make sure that's all sat in nicely. Okay, that is our front seating, and we should be able to relax this now, I think. Yep. Okay, so immediately behind this seat is this bench. I don't want to put that in just yet, but what we'll do is we'll just dry fit it in, which will just double check that we've done everything we're supposed to have done with the front seat. And I hadn't appreciated that there's a small gap, but there is. Yeah, I think that's all correct. There we go. Right, I'm just going to take that out. That's good. Right, I want to build up these side pieces next, and then we'll put that bench in last. So this first one goes in here like so. I've got no paint or anything in the way, but it is quite a tight fit. Just make sure I've got the right one in. There you go. Fits better if you use the right one. Let's try that. Oh, there you go, that goes straight in. Funny that, isn't it? Right, so if that slot just drops into place, that fits lovely. What I'm going to do is I'm going to glue that in from behind. Just let capillary action do its thing. Gives you a good impression of how much storage space they had from the outside of the vehicle, but you don't get to see any of that. There's no interior detail there. So that just sits there like so, and then we have a bench that goes next to it, which just, again, slots into place beautifully. Fit is lovely. And we'll glue that from behind as well. And as I look at it, it now looks like the weathering that we did to look like someone had been sat there and it was a bit scuffed seems to be spot on, which is nice. Right, now then, I always have a little knife blade. So if you get a bubble of glue, you can quickly take it away before it dries. It's a lot easier to get rid of it when it's soft. There we go. Okay, that is all good. Right, exactly the same on the other side. Fit doesn't appear to be as good on this side. There's a small gap, but I don't think it'll be noticeable once we've got the outside bulkheads on. Okay, so we can now fit this bench here. So just as we did with the front cabin seat, I'm just going to wet the plastic, let that get tacky. I'm going to put a small amount of glue in this little location holes. If we're going to have any fit issues, it's going to be caused from paint in these location holes. Not quite going down at the back there like it should, which suggests, there we go. There we go, just needed a little bit of persuasion. There we go, that's looking good. Right, we should be able to now put on our final two pieces, which is a sun visor and the steering wheel. So tiny amount of glue on the end of the shaft there. That'll start dissolving the paint that's on there, and then a bit in its location hole. There we go, that looks good. Just a bit conscious that we've got a roof to go on and we don't want it to sit too high. There we go. I imagine it just sort of swung down. There, that I am happy with. So we'll give it a minute for all the glue to set, and then we can go in and do a little bit of final weathering around the floor pan area. Now see how it's going to be possible to paint these rear mudguards. We can simply put masking tape around all of this, maybe cut out even a little bit of paper or thin cardboard to just go around the edge there, and then we can give it a few swipes with the airbrush and none of that will get covered at all. It may even be possible to put that in and paint it and then mask it when we do the red. So we'll have a look at that, but it's definitely an easy thing to do. So well, this takes me up to about step 23 now in the instructions, and we're ready to button up the interior. So the next step will be slapping on the sides. We've got the interior panels for the forward doors to be done, but the rest of it just gets well ignored really by the model. So I'm happy with the inside. I've got the colour that I wanted to achieve on the dashboard. I'm going to have to emulate that on the door inners there. Been weathered a little bit. All I've got left to do is a little bit of pencil chipping on the pedals there, and then we're ready to slap the sides on, and it feels like we're making some good progress then. So yeah, happy with that. I think it looks pretty cool. So yeah, once we've got the sides on, it's really about how this lot fits interacting with this inner bit. But it looks like we can build the back end and ignore the bonnet for now.